I knew things were about to go sideways the second I stepped out of my garage and saw this teenage kid halfway inside my Mustang, just legs dangling out, sneakers bouncing, like he'd taken a swan dive straight into the driver's seat. Now, I'm not saying my car is unstealable, but who in their right mind tries to jack a cherry red, loud-as-hell Mustang in broad daylight, while the owner is standing 10 feet away, holding a mug of coffee? At first, I honestly thought he'd fainted in there, or maybe he'd drop his phone. But then he turned, saw me, and, you won't believe this, just smirked. Not scared, not apologetic, just looked at me like I was the inconvenience, like I'd interrupted his Saturday morning routine. I didn't say a word. I just stood there and stared. Sometimes silence is the most effective weapon you got. He finally dusted off his shorts, real dramatic, and announced that his mom, the woman I know as the HOA's resident foghorn, had sent him to inspect the neighborhood cars for safety reasons. Yeah, safety. That's what we're calling it now. I almost laughed. I almost wanted to give him points for creativity, but there was something about his delivery, too smooth, too practiced, too entitled. This wasn't some teenage prank. This kid honestly believed he had authority. So I asked him, how does breaking into my garage and climbing in my car help anyone's safety? He shrugged, like I was boring him. Then he started talking about HOA jurisdiction over visible vehicles. Impressive words for a 17-year-old, but also a string of pure nonsense. I told him, real calm, to step away from the car, and he shot me that look. The one kids give right before they start calling you boomer or try to get you fired on TikTok. He actually told me he had the right to move my car if he wanted to, because it was parked wrong. Never mind, it was literally parked in my own garage. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a teenager being dumb. This was his mom's voice, right out of his mouth, with all her delusions about the HOA's power echoing around the garage. He didn't budge. So I did what any self-respecting Mustang owner would do. I pulled out my little remote and hit the button. Metal shutters started dropping from the ceiling. Yeah, the HOA hates those, says it disrupts the community aesthetic, and suddenly this kid transformed from the prince of entitlement to a startled alley cat. He scrambled out just as the alarm started its little chime. Didn't even get to enjoy the silence. Because, right on cue, I heard the rapid-fire tap of heels. Here comes the HOA queen herself, Karen, strutting down the driveway with her phone in one hand and a face that could curdle milk. Her son, suddenly the world's most innocent bystander, ducked behind her like I'd just threatened him with a chainsaw. She points at me, accuses me of terrorizing her minor child. I swear, only in HOA land can you be accused of terrorism for telling someone not to steal your car. But I stayed calm. Karen feeds off drama the way plants need sunlight, and I wasn't about to water that weed. I asked flat out why her son was in my garage. She launched into a speech that was somehow longer than the national anthem, about how my Mustang was attracting the wrong element, and how she was empowering her son to take initiative. I told her, empowering your kid to commit a felony isn't really a growth strategy. She did not appreciate that. She demanded my keys, said she'd move the car herself. At this point, I was more fascinated than angry. I honestly wanted to see how far she'd go. Next move? She whips out her phone, announces she's calling the police to report me for threatening a minor and brandishing a weaponized vehicle. I had no idea what that meant, but I didn't stop her. I let her make her show. While she was busy giving the 911 dispatcher a 1-star Yelp review of my existence, I sent my own message. Not to the police, not exactly. I texted Uncle Ray, the chief. Technically not my uncle, but he's been family longer than most people I'm related to. His reply, on my way. By the time Karen finished her call and puffed up for the crowd, her son beaming like he'd just won the spelling bee, a black SUV rolled up. Not a patrol car. Uncle Ray himself. Sunglasses on, poker face set to courtroom judge. Karen launched into a retelling of events so dramatic, she was practically auditioning for Law and Order. Uncle Ray listened, arms folded, face neutral, until she finally ran out of steam. Then he turned to me. Quiet day. I nodded. So far. He looked back at Karen, and that was the first time I saw her get nervous. He asked Karen why her son was in my garage. Her smile faltered. She tried spinning a new story, but he wasn't having it. He calmly explained that entering someone's garage without permission is trespassing. Trying to move their car? Attempted theft. Did she want to file a statement acknowledging that? Karen finally looked at me, and you could see it register. She was out of her league. She asked Uncle Ray who he was. He just gave her his last name, same as mine. Her face went sheet white. That should have been the end. But with Karen, nothing ends. It just mutates. Next morning, I find an HOA letter taped to my garage. Official letterhead, paragraphs of flowery legalese, accusing me of destabilizing the moral fabric of the neighborhood. The best part? A $200 fine. Not for anything real, just for existing with a car she didn't like and security shutters she couldn't stand. I held up the letter to her porch. She pretended she couldn't see me. So I wrote my own little note, taped it to her mailbox, declined. That was it. You think she'd let it go, right? Not Karen. Within an hour, I heard her voice bouncing off every mailbox. She'd recruited 2 other board members, her personal peanut gallery, who hovered around her like anxious bees. I didn't get involved. I work from home. If I stopped for every HOA tantrum, I'd never get anything done. But halfway through a Zoom call, I glanced at my security camera. There they were, measuring my driveway with a tape and a clipboard. Her son squatting down like gravity was a code violation. I nearly lost it. Later, more pounding at my door. Karen, her son, and now a letter written in red ink, claiming my driveway was non-compliant, my garage an excessive technological installation, and my Mustang's paint was a photoic nuisance. I told her none of this explained her son trying to break into my car. She blamed me anyway, said my flashy car tempted him. That's like blaming the bakery for someone stealing muffins because they look too good. Her threat? If I didn't pay, the HOA would take corrective action. Next morning, orange cones blocked my driveway, topped with a closed by HOA order sign, straight from Amazon, probably delivered with a side of irony. I moved the cones. They put them back. So, I tossed them into my backyard. Her son storms over, yells I'm tampering with official HOA property. I reminded him the HOA doesn't do prime shipping. His mom comes over, now shrieking about community values. But suddenly, I notice something shift. Instead of yelling, she starts snapping photos, dozens of them, from every angle, even walking onto my lawn. I asked what she planned to do with the pictures. She said she was filing an official report, but not with the police, oh no. She was going higher, code enforcement. Honestly, more creative than usual. Code enforcement cares about violations, not vendettas. But if you spam them enough, sometimes they show up just to check a box. I didn't wait. I texted a city supervisor, someone who hates HOA drama almost as much as I do. Within 15 minutes, a city SUV pulls up. Karen nearly explodes with anticipation, but the supervisor heads straight to my house. I show him every permit, every receipt, all legal, all above board. Then, in front of Karen, he tells me, and her, that not only am I in full compliance, but he's making a note not to waste city time on unfounded HOA complaints from her address. You could hear a pin drop. Does she give up? Not a chance. Next morning, I find my license plate gone, replaced by a piece of cardboard reading community vehicle property in wobbly Sharpie. Her son stands there like he's just knighted himself. I asked where my plate is. He says the HOA seized it as evidence. I told him he had 10 seconds to tell me where it was, or I was calling the cops. He cracked, pointed to their backyard. I walk over, Karen bursts out, blocks the gate, starts ranting about aesthetic guidelines. But my plate's just sitting there, next to a mountain of HOA flyers. We do a weird little dance, left, right, until I scoop up the plate and walk away. She screams I'll regret this breach of protocol. That night, I checked the footage. They stole it at 3 a.m., peak hour for raccoons and dumb ideas. And if you think that's where it stopped, you don't know Karen. Around noon, a tow truck pulls in, unmarked, definitely not city. The driver's got my address, says the HOA called it in for illegal residency. I show him the car's title, framed on my garage wall since high school. He shrugs, says that's good enough, and calls his boss. Karen sprints over, tries to physically block the truck, screams at the driver, but he just leaves. She stands there, red-faced, accusing me of destroying neighborhood unity. I ask her how unity works when only one person agrees with herself. But she isn't done. By sunset, my lawn is covered with little survey flags, her minions out there with a laser level, muttering about future tree growth. I tell them to leave. They claim verbal authorization. I call Uncle Ray again. 5 minutes later, police are there. The flags vanish, minions scatter. Karen's at her door, shrieking about constitutional rights, and slams it so hard the glass rattles. That night, a new notice appears, this time a fake city tag about Mustang fluid leaks. All lies, but to a stranger it looks legit. I peel it off, save it for evidence. Just as I'm sitting down to dinner, there's a knock, a chill, polite one. The new HOA president introduces himself, says there's a building violation on my shutters, noise complaints, and, you guessed it, anonymous tips. I tell him to file it formally. He hints things would go smoother if I cooperate. I say things go smoother when the HOA stops inventing violations. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzes with another anonymous message, a photo of my Mustang, a last warning. That's when I realized we were way past HOA drama. I texted Uncle Ray. He told me not to do anything. He'd handle it. 30 minutes after that, a county compliance investigator shows up, higher authority than the HOA could ever dream of. He reviews my permits, asks about threatening messages. I show him everything, fake tag, photos, texts. He walks to Karen's house, asks her about the fake notices. She stammers, tries to pivot, but the investigator warns her, falsifying county documents is a crime. She finally goes quiet. But just before midnight, I hear noises outside. 3 figures, crowbar, tool bag, all dressed in black, trying to mess with my security system. Amateurs. I flip on the floodlights, step out in slippers, mug of tea in hand. Gentlemen, is there a reason you're dismantling my house at midnight? They freeze. One tries. We're doing an urgent HOA inspection. I ask if midnight inspections are new policy. The panic is almost funny. I tell them the cameras have already uploaded footage off-site. Lie, but they buy it. They scatter. One even loses a shoe. Morning brings a laminated emergency vehicle seizure order, forged signature and all. I march it to the president. He's terrified, tells me Karen's gone rogue, forging documents, pressuring the board. Says he wants protection. He's switching sides. As if on cue, state investigators arrive. 2 black sedans, badges, serious faces. Karen tries her usual routine, but they shut her down fast. They ask if she created the fake order. She tries to lie, but the evidence is overwhelming. They suspend the HOA, start a full-blown investigation. For the first time, Karen is truly speechless, her power evaporating in real time. The street feels different, quieter. Kids play, neighbors breathe easy. But I know Karen's not done. Next morning, her own board turns on her, spilling everything to the investigators. She's shredding papers, burning documents, making frantic calls. By afternoon, she's standing in the street, screaming about corruption, waving a forged email she claims I sent, until the state shows up again, confiscates her devices, and hauls away the evidence. For the first time since this circus started, Karen sits on her porch, not as a queen, but as a woman who's lost everything. Her son sits beside her, silent. The neighborhood doesn't cheer. They just watch, uncertain what to do with the quiet. I don't feel triumphant. Not really. People like Karen don't accept defeat. They just wait, rebuild, and come back swinging. And as I watched the sun dip behind the roofs, I had a feeling it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But maybe, just maybe, this time the whole block learned something about bullies, boundaries, and what happens when you push a decent person 1 inch too far. What do you think? When is enough really enough? Would you have handled it differently? Or let Karen dig her own grave? Let me know. Drop your thoughts below. Tell me your HOA horror stories. And hey, if you believe in standing up to crazy, don't forget to share this around. Someone out there might need a little encouragement to fight back, too.